Zodiac Killer. Subscribe for more real crime stories. Like, share, and join the discussion below. The night was cold and silent, the kind of silence that makes your heart beat louder than the wind. A young couple sat in a parked car on a lonely road near Vallejo, California. The moonlight barely touched the ground, and the fog hung low. Suddenly, from the darkness, headlights appeared behind them. Slow, steady, and getting closer. The couple thought it was just another car passing by. But then, the lights stopped. The car parked right behind them. The man in the driver's seat leaned forward, confused. "Maybe he's lost," he whispered. Before he could say another word, the sound of footsteps broke the stillness. Heavy, calm, deliberate steps. Then, out of nowhere, bang. 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 Gunshots ripped through the quiet night. The young man slumped against the steering wheel. The girl screamed, her voice echoing through the empty road. The shooter didn't rush. He stepped closer, the gun gleaming in the dark. He fired again, silent but deadly, then walked away into the fog, disappearing as quickly as he came. On the car door, police later found strange symbols drawn in black marker. Circles, crosses, codes no one could read. And that was just the beginning. Days later, a letter arrived at the Vallejo Times-Herald newspaper. It was written in neat handwriting, but every word felt cold and cruel. "Dear editor," it began, "I like killing people because it's so much fun." The writer signed it with a strange circle and cross symbol, the same one from the car door. And underneath the signature, a chilling name, the Zodiac. The world had just met a killer who would become one of America's darkest mysteries. Before the police could make sense of the first attack, another couple was found dead by the side of the road. Same method, same fear. And once again, another letter arrived, filled with cryptic symbols, strange numbers, and threats. "If you don't print this code on the front page," the Zodiac wrote, "I'll go on a killing spree this weekend." Newspapers across California were forced to publish the letters. People everywhere tried to crack the code, searching for the killer's identity. Some thought it was just a madman playing games. Others feared it was something bigger, something planned. Police received hundreds of tips, but the Zodiac seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Each new letter came with more puzzles, more victims, and more fear. Then, one night, a taxi driver in San Francisco picked up a passenger, a quiet man in glasses who gave a random address. Minutes later, the driver was found shot dead at an intersection. Witnesses saw a man wiping blood from the door before calmly walking away into the night. When officers arrived, they found yet another letter waiting for them. "I enjoy killing because man is the most dangerous animal of all." And just when they thought it couldn't get worse, the Zodiac sent a piece of the taxi driver's bloody shirt to prove he wasn't lying. The city panicked. No one knew who he was. No one knew when he'd strike again. But everyone knew one thing. The Zodiac was watching. And then another letter arrived. This time, it said something that would change everything. The letter that arrived next shook everyone in the San Francisco Police Department. It wasn't just another taunt, it was a warning. In his sharp, chilling handwriting, the Zodiac wrote, "School children make nice targets. I shall wipe out a school bus some morning." The words were enough to paralyze the entire city. Parents stopped letting their kids walk alone. Police cars followed school buses, officers keeping eyes on every corner. But the Zodiac didn't strike that day or the next. He had done something worse. He had made the whole city his prisoner. Detectives were working around the clock, trying to decode his strange symbols. One cipher had been cracked by a schoolteacher and his wife, revealing a disturbing message. "I like killing people because it's so much fun. I will not give you my name because you'll try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for my afterlife." It wasn't just murder to him, it was a game. A hunt. A way to become something more than human. Across Northern California, people lived in fear. Newspapers were flooded with letters from citizens claiming they knew who the Zodiac was. Everyone had a theory. A jealous lover. A vengeful veteran. A police officer gone rogue. But none of the suspects fit perfectly. The Zodiac always stayed one step ahead. Then, in September 1969, he struck again. This time it was Lake Berryessa, a quiet place where couples went to relax by the water. A young man and woman were having a picnic when a strange figure appeared from behind the trees. He wore a black hood over his head, like an executioner, with the same circle and cross symbol drawn on his chest. At first, they thought it was a prank, but then they saw the gun. The man told them he was an escaped convict from a nearby prison and needed money and a car. He spoke calmly, like someone rehearsing his lines. He tied them both up with rope, then pulled out a knife. What happened next was brutal and fast. The killer stabbed them repeatedly, then walked away, leaving the circle and cross symbol painted on their car door in black ink. Miraculously, the man survived long enough to describe everything to police. It was the first time anyone had seen the Zodiac up close. Just hours later, a call came into the Napa County Sheriff's Office. A calm voice on the line said, "I want to report a double murder. They are 2 miles north of park headquarters." I did it. Then he hung up. The call was traced to a phone booth not far from the police station. Fingerprints were found, but they didn't match anyone. A few weeks later, the killer struck again. This time in San Francisco, claiming yet another victim, a cab driver named Paul Stein. The Zodiac didn't just kill him. He tore off a piece of his bloody shirt and mailed it to the newspapers. The police were now desperate. Detectives surrounded the area minutes after the crime, even stopping a man who matched the killer's description. But due to a radio error, officers were told to look for a black male suspect. The man they stopped, a white man with glasses, was politely questioned, then let go. That man may have been the Zodiac himself. And while the city was still reeling from that mistake, another letter arrived. The Zodiac mocked the police again, writing, "I was stopped and talked to by 2 cops. They could have caught me last night." He was laughing at them, at everyone. Then near the bottom of the letter, he added something new, a code even harder to break. Experts tried for decades, but no one could solve it completely. It was as if the Zodiac had left a message from the grave, daring the world to uncover who he really was. The killing stopped, but the fear didn't. The Zodiac's voice disappeared from newspapers, but his legend grew darker with each passing year. And then one day, years later, another letter appeared. Same handwriting, same symbol. Could it be that the Zodiac had returned? The new letter arrived in 1974, 5 years after the last confirmed Zodiac killing. It was shorter than usual, but unmistakably his. The same sharp handwriting, the same taunting tone. He called himself the Zodiac, again, claiming responsibility for crimes that didn't even seem connected. It was as if he wanted to remind everyone that he was still out there, still watching. The letter was postmarked from San Francisco, but investigators couldn't trace it. Fingerprints, DNA, handwriting, none of it matched any known suspect. And yet, the terror it brought back was instant. The city that had finally begun to heal was suddenly holding its breath again. Detectives reopened their files. They went over every name, every suspect they'd ever had. One of them, Arthur Lee Allen, fit the Zodiac's description almost perfectly. He was a former schoolteacher with a disturbing fascination for codes and violent fantasies. He even wore a watch with the same circle and cross symbol. When police searched his home, they found knives, guns, and tapes about murder fantasies. Everyone thought they finally had him, but the evidence wasn't strong enough. The handwriting didn't match perfectly. The fingerprints weren't a match either. Allen was questioned over and over, but he never confessed. He died in 1992, still denying he was the Zodiac. For a while, it seemed like the case had gone cold for good. But the mystery never really left. Over the years, new suspects surfaced: a journalist, a military man, even a painter. Dozens of theories, hundreds of books, and still, no one could say for sure who he was. Then, in 2020, more than 50 years after the killings, a team of codebreakers finally cracked one of the Zodiac's unsolved ciphers, the famous 340 cipher. Hidden inside its strange symbols was a haunting message. "I hope you're having lots of fun trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber, because it will send me to paradise all the sooner." Even after decades, his words carried the same chilling confidence, the same twisted pride. Technology advanced, DNA testing, forensic genealogy, yet none of it could name the killer for certain. Each clue led investigators closer, then slipped away again, like the man himself was still playing his game from beyond the grave. And while the Zodiac's trail went quiet, letters continued to appear across the years, some proven fake, some still debated. Every few years, someone would claim they'd solved it, that they knew who the Zodiac really was. But no one could ever prove it. Today, more than half a century later, the Zodiac Killer remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. His victims' names are remembered, but his own is still hidden, buried beneath layers of fear, lies, and codes that never fully broke. Some say he's long dead. Others believe he lived an ordinary life, blending back into the world he once terrorized. But somewhere, out there in Northern California, the shadow of the Zodiac still lingers, in the minds of detectives, the nightmares of survivors, and the countless people who still whisper his name. Because, as one investigator once said, the Zodiac doesn't just vanish. He watches. And maybe he never stopped.